Hi everyone, in this video we're going to talk about the overview of the listening section for the new TOEFL 2026. Remember, this is for the new TOEFL 2026, even though it's going to be very similar to the previous listening section for the previous TOEFL 2023. Okay, so let's begin with what are the general aspects. This new TOEFL 2026 has three tasks. You could say that there are four, but the official website separates it into three, so we're also going to separate it into three. The first task is to listen and choose a response. So what's going to happen is the very first question and the very first questions are going to have as you're going to listen to maybe a question or maybe just a statement like an affirmative sentence or something like that, and then in the alternatives you are going to choose the answer for that question or for that statement. So for example, let's say the first statement, the first question is somebody asking, hey, do you know what time it is? And then the answer would be, no, sorry, I don't have the time. Now we're gonna see a specific breakthrough to this every single specific question type. Don't worry, this is just an overview, but it's all about that. The second task is to listen to a conversation. This is very similar to the previous TOEFL 2023. You listen to a conversation, male and female, and they talk about stuff, and then you answer questions based on that conversation. The third task and third and fourth is to listen to announcement and an academic talk. They're very similar. This I think this is why they consider it just one task. So you either listen to an announcement, like again, like in the previous TOEFL, like maybe a company announcing something or a college announcing, I don't know, change of schedules or something like that, and then you answer questions about that. Same thing with academic talk. Of course, remember the academic talk is about academic topics, so maybe geography, biology, astronomy, etc. Now, this whole section will last from 35 to will have from 35 to 45 questions and will last approximately 29 minutes. Remember, you can speed through the questions. When you're answering the question, you can just click on the answer and move on, but you cannot speed through the audio. So the question that you hear or the conversation that you hear or the academic talk that you hear, you cannot speed through those. You just have to sit and let time pass. So, principles for the listening section, we're going to use keywords. So, this is a kind of a new principle I put here, especially because the new question type that they have, in which you just listen to a statement or a question and then you answer. Here you're going to have to focus on keywords. The way to do these questions, again, we're going to see this in the next video. The way to solve these questions is not to overthink it and not to have the quote unquote perfect answer. It's just to see which answer or which statement follows whatever statement you hear based on keywords. Is this a question? Is this not a question? Is it about time? Is this about mood, etc.? We're going to take notes. Remember, when you listen to conversations, when you listen to the academic talk, you don't want to memorize the stuff and you want to be able to listen to the audios again and you want to be able to read a transcript. So we take notes. And finally, only the information in the audios exists. Remember, do not add any new information from whatever you know to be true in life. This is the same principle as in reading. Let's say you listen to an academic talk about a subject that you're very knowledgeable about. Doesn't really matter. You only know what the audio is saying. Now, things you have to do, again, you take notes, you be specific. Again, remember the specific words have specific meanings. Don't change the meaning of the words, don't add or subtract meanings. We're going to focus on important keywords and we're going to eliminate using process of elimination. What is process of elimination? I have a full video about process of elimination. Things you don't do. Don't try to understand everything. If while you're listening you didn't understand one of the words, doesn't really matter. You don't care, you move on. Do not obsess over words you are not understanding. This is true for all the exam. If you don't understand it, let it go. Okay, you just have to let it go and move on with your life. Focus on what you did understand. Do not stop if you don't understand. Again, do not stop in your head. Do not try to, like, let's say you hear a sentence, right? A sentence that says the lion escaped from the lion escaped the fence, something like that, right? And then you don't know, like, escape the what? The lion escaped, and then you start overthinking it, and then time is running. So forget about it. You have to learn to let go. Of course, yes, it will be better if you just understand every single word, but it's not necessary. Okay, it's not necessary to understand every single word. Don't leave unanswered questions. Again, if you have to guess, guess. Just don't waste time trying to figure out something there's no way for you to figure it out. Just guess. And don't rely on memory. Remember, memory is fragile. And even if you could, why would you, right? Just save your brain energy for other stuff. How do we take notes? Well, we copy as much information as we can, okay, but we don't use full sentences or full words. So how are we going to copy as much information without using full sentences or full words? Well, using keywords. We're going to use abbreviations, we're going to use symbols, we're going to use initials, we're going to use charts, we're going to use whatever we it is we need to use in order to understand or to copy, to write down the information without using too much space and without using too much time. Again, this is a lot to do with time. Yes, if we had a full transcript, that would be fine, but we don't. So, an example, this is the same example I used in the other video. I have an updated example. So, you can just look away, but let's say this is the audio. I'm just gonna read this, okay? The audio says, coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 is a contagious disease caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 SARS-CoV-2. The first case was identified in Wuhan, China in December 2019. It has since spread worldwide, leading to an ongoing pandemic. I use this example because we were fresh out of COVID. So, what you don't want to do, you don't want to try to copy everything. This is what you don't want to do. If you had infinite time and if you had, I don't know, you were very, very fast copying, I would say, yeah, do that. Like, if you could actually make an in time, real time transcript of every single word you're hearing, yeah, that would be the case. But since we humans do not perform like that, that's not what you want to do. What you do want to do is you want to focus on the keywords. So, name proper names like coronavirus, dates, specific adjectives that, well, most adjectives are going to be important, but luckily for you, the TOEFL is not going to overuse adjectives. And if they do overuse them, okay, let's say you have three adjectives on a row, just choose the adjective that seems more important or more extreme, like contagious disease, acute respiratory syndrome, right? The first, like position, the first, the last, places, Wuhan, China, again, dates, again, war pandemic. Now, there's no rule of which words are always keywords, which words are never keywords. This is something that you start while you practice, or the more exercises you do, you're going to become better at noticing which words are keywords. But in general, proper names, dates, places, and again, I don't want to say extreme adjectives, but adjectives that are strong, right? For example, we can have a weak adjective, like it's a seasonal, no, that's not a weak adjective, like it's a bad disease. Yeah, bad disease. Yeah, most diseases are bad, right? So that will be a weak adjective. Contagious disease, acute respiratory syndrome, those are strong adjectives. So that's how we want to take notes. Again, you may have your own ways of taking notes. Something important here is, if you notice, I'm not even using full words. I'm not even saying disease, I just put in this, right? I don't say respiratory, I just put respir. Why? Because in the context of the, in this case, the academic talk, if I read respire, what else could it be, right? If I read the word this, again, in the context of this specific talk, what else could it be? There is, it's not likely that I'm going to confuse this word with another word. So you could say that we are using the context a little bit. Okay, so what is the specific strategy? So in order it goes like this, except for the first question, for the first task. In the first task, we don't use this strategy. We use this strategy for conversation, academic talks, and announcements. We take notes while listening, the way I just showed you to take notes. We read and listen to the question. Be careful about the specific question. We look for keywords both in the question. We match the keywords from the question to the keywords in our notes. We go to the specific part of the notes. Again, that's how we match. And we use process of elimination. What is process of elimination? Well, it's a list of possible mistakes that an alternative can contain. So it could be the wrong word, extreme word, opposite information, out of scope, true but not my answer. I have a full video about this. This is why I'm not developing this topic right here. You can see it on the channel. It's probably I'm probably gonna also put it on the playlist, on this playlist, so you can see this, how to apply. This is basically the same as in reading. Okay, so that's it. That's the overview of the listening section. I have another video where I'm gonna put is each specific task and how to solve each specific task. For recommended material, if you don't have the money to actually buy packages, just play full practice tests on YouTube. They're very good. They're very good practice. There are a lot of YouTubers who also go through this the answers. You can also watch them. I don't usually do that, but I think the YouTubers that dedicate themselves to TOEFL exam, the TOEFL exam, are very good. You can also use the official practice test. Remember, you have access to two free practice tests on the TOEFL website, and you can also buy packages for official practice tests there. You can also practice if you happen to encounter material from the old TOEFL. You can use the parts of the conversation and the parts of the academic talk, but the first task does not exist in the previous TOEFL. Recommended tutor, of course I recommend myself as a tutor, but if you don't want to if you want to hire a tutor that is not me, remember you can find a convenient tutor online or in person. And the important things that I think a tutor must have is, like, you have to feel comfortable with the lessons. You must feel like, remember, feeling that you're learning and actually learning are two different things, but still you have to be comfortable because mood matters. And you don't want to pay extra cash for material you can get online. Again, you can find lots of free full tests online, so don't pay extra cash for those unless you have the cash, in which case just go ahead and pay. And also see that you're not wasting class time doing long readings and listenings, because a lot of these can be done at home or for homework. I'm not saying that it's never the case that you should do a listening with your tutor. That could be the case, especially if you're not so good at listening. In this case, a tutor could definitely help you understand and give you strategies to understand. But in general, if your listening is good and you're just failing, I mean, if you hear everything and you understood everything and then the listening is good, you're probably failing at something else. So you can do the listen on your own and then in class do something else. Okay, so that's it. I'm gonna put the link where you can see this material on my website, and see you next video. Bye.